All right, so it's 2017. I am working as a fitness instructor in a local gym, and part of the job description is that we have to market our own fitness classes by making posters and sticking them up around the facility and up around social media. But it was quickly established right from the beginning that my design work was head and shoulders above what anybody else in the place was doing. And before long then I was designing probably around 70 to 80% of the facility's marketing material. I was doing the majority of the class posters, I was doing timetables, I was doing Easter camp and summer camp posters and various other things that was coming up in the near future. Now, one of the other things that I did do was I made these slideshows for the TV, which was in the reception area, so when customers could come in, they could kind of get an idea of what's going on in the place. Generally, you'd have around 10 to 15 slides on it. You'd have a slide for Monday classes, a slide for Tuesday classes, and so on. And then if there's any new classes, you'd have a slide for it, a little description about what it's about, and if there's any talks or any athletic meets, they'd all be on this slideshow. So I remember I just loaded up a brand new slideshow onto the TV and stood back and hit the play button on the remote, and it was myself and my work colleague Olga who just kind of stood looking at it, and probably around, I don't know, 30 to 60 seconds in, she turned around to me and she says, "You know, Sean, these are brilliant, you should be charging for these." Now, up until that point I had never dreamed of charging for my design work. I just enjoyed doing it. I didn't see myself as a graphic designer and didn't see a future in it, but with them few words that she said there, it just kind of planted a little seed in my head, and that seed just continued to grow. So not long after that, I had a job performance review, and these were yearly things we had in the gym, and every year the fitness instructors would always go in and they'd always look for a pay raise because we were on minimum wage and we needed more money, but it was always rejected. And this year I had a wee bit more confidence because I had that leverage, so I went into the meeting and it was the manager Fergal, it was the assistant manager Darren, and we sat down and I said, look, I am producing around 70 to 80% of the facility's marketing material to a very high standard. This is going above and beyond what's asked of me, so I think I should be getting paid a little bit extra for that. Now the manager, Fergal's a good guy. This year actually, he moved to a different gym across the country, but he still sends work my way. So he says, look, I'll bring it to the board of directors and see what they say. So a few days later, he came back to me and he says, good news, Sean, the board have approved your request. So anytime you do design work, we want you to send us in the invoice and we'll get that paid. And that'll be up to a value of €2,000 per year. So it was my first bit of success as a graphic designer and it felt good. Now with that newfound success, I quickly set up a Facebook page, called it Sean's Designs, and just put the word out there that I was a graphic designer offering my services if anybody needed them. Now, I'm not going to lie, that first year was extremely quiet. I was probably getting around 1 or 2 jobs a month, if I remember correctly, and they were usually from the gym that I was in. I remember actually doing a charity event poster for free because I just wanted to get stuff up on my social media page and make it look like it was in demand, but it was very quiet. 2018 came around. I remember things noticeably jumped up. Instead of getting 1 or 2 jobs a month, I was getting 1 or 2 jobs a week. But 2018 was significant for a different reason. It's when I stopped focusing from doing marketing materials like business cards, flyers and leaflets to more focusing on doing personalised wall art stuff. And the reason that came about was my sister-in-law Laura, she contacted me. She was looking for a gift for her husband, now her ex-husband, but she had one of these time stood still prints in mind. She sent me an example of one. If I can find it, I'll put it up here, but I remember the one she sent me. It was a baby inside of a square, and then you had a Roman numeral clock. It was very plain, and then the font was overly scripted. So I knew I could do a lot better than it, and I did do a lot better than it, and she put that up on her Facebook page, I put it up on my Facebook page, and then before you know it, I have more mothers coming at me asking if they can get one done of their kids. So I knew I was on to something with this, and with that then I just started to focus more on making personalised wall art products utilising people's photographs, and I set up my website, a Wix website at the time, and this is when I kind of changed my name from Sean's Designs to Design Gaff, In case you're wondering, gaff is a slang word in Ireland for house, and I was doing all of the design work from my house at the time, so I thought it'd be fitting. It's more of a Dublin slang word, to be honest, but design gaff, that's where that came from. So yeah, I set up my Wix website and started just putting all these products on it and experimenting with Facebook ads, and I continued to do that throughout 2018, 2019. I got reasonable success from it, but definitely not enough to leave my full-time job. All right, so 2020 came, and I feel as if this is when my side hustle business really started to gain a bit of traction. So what happened was, well, COVID happened, and the whole world went in the lockdown. The gym that I was in went in the lockdown, and we were at home. I think it was for around 3 months. And I remember a few weeks prior to that, I had put a post up on Facebook that was very successful. It was getting a lot of likes, a lot of comments, a lot of people tagging each other in it. And the first week in lockdown, I decided I'm going to make an ad out of this post, and I'm going to spend more on it than I've ever spent, which was €20 a day at the time. It was a lot of money for me back then, because remember, I'm still on minimum wage. But yeah, €20 a day, and I targeted mothers in Ireland and the UK aged between 24 and 40. Now this ad was my 5 best-selling baby wall art products. Now the sales started to come in straight away, and I remember on the quietest week I was probably getting around 700 a week, and at its peak I was hitting 1,000 a week with that ad. That's for around 7 or 8 weeks. It worked very well until I started tweaking with it and messed it up. But I was bringing in some really good money at that time, and on top of that I was still bringing in my minimum wage from the gym. Now also, whilst I was upstairs fulfilling all them orders and designing them, I started listening to a lot of inspirational speakers, guys like Jim Roth, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, but one guy that really caught my attention was the late Bob Proctor. Bob talked a lot about the book Think and Grow Rich. He talked a lot about the law of attraction and how to manifest stuff into your life, and I was fascinated by it, and I decided I'm going to give this a try. So one of the things Bob said was, you should get your goal and be very specific about it, write it down on a card, and write down when you want to attain that goal. Now I went one step further than Bob said. Instead of writing it down on a card, I got the mock-up of the front of a shop and put my logo on it, and I put on that card February 2022. I still have it here in my wallet. I'm going to keep this forever. So there it is. February 2022, Monaghan Town. Now, you want to fast forward, I didn't open my business in February 2022. I opened in April of 2022, but I was very close to it. Yeah, very close. So going back, it's 2020. I have bringing in all this money. I'm listening to these inspirational speakers. I've got my goals set. And for the first time, I start to properly reinvest back into my business. So I bought the HP DesignJet Z6 24-inch printer to allow me to do canvases and bigger posters of these personalized things that I was doing, and then that in turn would bring in more revenue. I also took the opportunity when I was home for 3 months to build my computer, and I upgraded my home office. I got this desk that I'm still sitting at, the computer I'm still using, the HP DesignJet I just sold a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, that was the start of it. And then with the rest of the money I was bringing in, I started to save up in the hope of building up capital for when the day comes that I finally do open up the doors to my printing shop. And yeah, with that then I just continued to sell personalized products throughout the rest of that year and experiment with Facebook ads. I never could match the success of that first ad, but yeah, I was bringing in a bit. 2021 came then, and I decided I'm going to do this no matter what. This was probably around the summertime, and I said I'm going to burn all my bridges here because I've got my goals set. I was pretty depressed in the gym. I was kind of going through the motions. I was a little bit bored with it, counting reps for people and still getting minimum wage. So yeah, come summertime, I says to the manager, look, I'm going to be leaving early next year to start up my own business. I told all my work colleagues, I told all my family. Some of them freaked out, but I was listening to that much inspirational stuff, motivational stuff, that I was fairly confident it would work. Now, come, what was it, February 2022, then I found this place and got the lease on it. I handed in my notice, and I think it was the week before St. Patrick's Day 2023 when I left the gym and I was out on my own. All right, so moving in here in April of 2022, I knew I was going to need more. All I had was a 24-inch printer, a computer, a desk, and a little sublimation printer. So I knew I was going to have to be fit to offer customers more if I wanted this to succeed. And I contacted digitalprint.ie in Dublin, and they had a Konica Minolta C1060, the one that you see down the corner there. So they had that for sale. It was €15,000, which was well over my budget. At this stage, I had burned through a lot of my capital. I got the sign in the front of the shop. I got the floor in here. I got a carpenter to build the desk, or the frame around the desk. I paid 2 months rent. So capital was well burnt through. But I was lucky to get a loan of €10,000 from my father-in-law, which I'm still paying back today, €50 a week. I believe it's paid off next year. But with that €10,000 then, I put a good chunk of the remainder of my money towards it and got that Konica C1060. It arrived 2 weeks later, and that gave me so many more options in what I could offer customers. So I was hitting business customers with looking for business cards and flyers and vouchers, and I was hitting, just general customers coming in looking to get wedding invitations and canvases and things. So I was kind of getting both, and I continued to make sales with that throughout 2022. 2023 came then towards the end of the year. It was Christmas when I was on holidays. I wrote down my goals for the new year, which was to be 2024. And the first goal was to be fit to do signage printing, and the second goal was to be ranked #1 in Google for printing in my town here. So the first goal I attained pretty quick. Epson arrived in January, and the second goal I still haven't attained yet. I don't know how. When you look at some of the websites that are selling here in this town, but yeah, so that's where I was. The Epson brought in a whole new level of business for me and a whole new revenue stream, and yeah, so that's where I'm at now, guys. It's nearly the end of the year. I'll soon have to write down my goals for 2025, but this is where I'm at. I've built this studio. Very proud to admit it, that this went from just being a little computer in my living room to being this well kitted out studio. It's been a long road, nearly 8 years. There's been a lot of mistakes made, but I've learned from all the mistakes. And what I have noticed about building up my business is that there's a compound effect to it. Each year it just gets that little bit busier if you're doing a good job. I remember the first year, 2017, it was really quiet. I was getting pretty much nothing. To now, when I'm making pretty good money, and I haven't got a lot of overheads. It's just what I have to pay back my father-in-law. But yeah, it's been a journey. But I'm not going to rest on my laurels. You got to keep pressing ahead. I want to build this into a juggernaut. This is just a little studio at the minute. When the lease is up, then I'll probably move into something bigger. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That's how I built my graphic design and printing business, from just being that little computer and A3 photo printer in the living room to being this well kitted out studio. Hope you liked the video. If you did, and you want to see more about what's going on here in the printing studio, or more about my business in general, then subscribe to the channel.